Hi guys, Big Wheel Dog 82 in the soil here, and today we're going to do a compilation of my bioassay that I did in order to gain some information on what I should use as my seed starting mix for 2025, but also to introduce you guys to what an actual bioassay entails and how it could work for you. This is a introduction and basic bioassay. I don't have any kind of degree. Didn't go to any school or nothing like that. This is just taking the basic information, applying it to growing plants, and putting it all together in one single video where you get all the information without all the fluff that I might have added in the various parts of my video that I posted on YouTube. That's me trying to say this is going to be one that you need drinks, popcorn, or whatever snacks you want. You need to have them ready because, like I said, it's going to be a long one. So if you think that this is something that is educational or might even help, I appreciate that. I'm not a scientist. I didn't go to school for any of this stuff. This is just my personal journey that I undertook throughout this process. So buckle in, guys. See you there. Big Wheel Dog 82 in the soil here, and I'm talking about bioassays. Do you understand what a real bioassay is? Well, guess what? I got a few studies here that I'm getting ready to do to help you keep from having issues in your garden. A bioassay is, in layman's terms, a test to see if there's anything that will interfere with a seed germinating or a plant growing true to form, whether that's a tomato or a bean or anything else that you might decide to grow in your garden. Now, while the test that I'm doing is far from perfect, it's good enough to show whether or not there's a big problem with any of the inputs that I decide to put into my garden. I will be using the worm castings from my leaf mold pile. I will be using the sifted compost from my stage 2 of my compost bin. And I will be going ahead and taking some of the leaves that I've still got on hand that I've already been shredded and doing a water test with that just to show you guys how to do a test with whether it be manure or soil that you've brought in, compost, just about anything. And here we have our control, which is just plain Pro Mix that's been sifted just like the others will be, and that's at a 1/8 of an inch. Here I'm taking a little bit of blood meal, putting into my Pro Mix. And then I'll hit it with some lab serum. Here you see in these two bottles, this bottle right here is just water. And then this bottle here is a lactobacillus serum. So it's just lactic acid bacteria made from rice water and milk. And then once it's done fermenting, this is the whey that was pulled off. And since I don't have any kind of microbial life in the pot that has the blood meal in it, what I'm going to do is start it off by adding just a little bit of this to give it something that can break down the blood meal over time. Here we have a 50-50 mix by volume of worm castings that I made myself, and the Pro Mix, which we are going to pour in here to mix up. Roughly, it doesn't have to be perfect. And then pour back into the container. Here we have some of my leaf mold that I just went ahead and grabbed real fast, threw it through my 1/8 inch sift, and got out these castings from the leaf mold that will be going into the next pot. And if you can see, we do have some worm activity, which is always beautiful to see. As we can see here, the leaf mold and Pro Mix has been mixed and is now loaded into its container. Here we have my compost bucket with sifted compost. Again, it's been sifted down to 1/8 inch to try to keep things even. And again, it's at a 50-50 mix ratio with the sifted Pro Mix. And here we go with the compost and Pro Mix mix loaded up into its container. What I decided to do with this last container is to show you how I do my initial bioassay with both my leaves and horse manure. I do not have any horse manure right now, so it'll just be the leaves. And what that is going to entail is taking a bucket of water, filling it with my leaves, and only watering this exact container with just that as we go along. And here's the chopped up leaves that we're doing for the leaf water. You don't really need a ton of leaves. You just need enough in there where it's gonna last most of the test. And if for some reason they dissolve or I need to add more, I can always do that. So here we go, filling that up with water. And then we will stir that to get it all moist. And what will happen is, over time, obviously, if you're using the water, it's going to go down. All you have to do is just refill it and keep watering the one pot, which is this one right here that says, again, Leaf Water Pro Mix Green Bean. The reason why we're doing this water test with the leaves, again, is to look for herbicides that might cause issues with your seedlings that you use it with before you stick it into your compost or introduce it as an input to your garden, period. And again, this is the same way I would do with horse manure. With horse manure, though, I would just take some of it, keep it separate from everything else, and every time you go to water, just take a little bit of the manure and mix it in with water, and then water in the green bean that you're trying to test. All right, now we've got all of our pots figured and set up, and then really all that's left to do is plant our beans. And the beans that I'm using are just garden bean Roma 2s from Park Seed. That's not really an important thing. And again, I've got my leaf water here, and so we're just going to start planting. I'll do a few of these just because, but you don't necessarily need to see me do all of them. So the first I'm going to go from the control to the lab serum and pro mix with the blood meal one, and then the leaf water, because I don't think those are going to interfere with each other. And then the rest of them, they all have their own microbiology to them, so that'll help break down itself. Again, I only added the lab serum to the blood meal just to sort of kind of help make sure that it's going to break down. But I'm not going to continue to water the blood meal one with the lab serum and water. It's just going to be plain water. The only one that's going to have anything special about it is going to be the leaf water one. So the control. There's 4 holes there. Four holes there. And then 4 holes there. So each pot is getting 4 beans, because I want to get as many sample sizes as I can without driving myself nuts and wasting good seed. So I'm just gonna keep it to 4, and that'll be enough to come to a conclusion, even though at some point you're going to end up cutting at least half of the beans that come up in the pots to allow them to continue to grow, but we'll get into that in the next video. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then after all that, you just set them aside somewhere where they won't be messed up or messed with. I'm going to be sitting mine in my cheap outdoor greenhouse that I have, and just go from there. So like I said, the next time that we look at these, it'll be after they've sprouted and before they have their true leaves, because we won't really see a big difference unless it's something affecting germination until the true leaves come. And by then we're going to have to decide which of these we're going to cut, because you can't really support 4 plants in one small container like this for a bioassay. And just like that, we're off to running. What we're going to do now is go step by step to see if all of those amendments that I have separated out in the same standard soil, which is basically just pro mix that's been sifted, how they all affect the plants. More than likely, most of those I've already bioassayed myself, so I have an idea of what's going on there. But again, this is a little journey that we can do, and this is just part 1 of a multi-part video series. Why don't you guys follow along, plant your own seeds in your own inputs before you compost them, and let's have this journey together. What's up guys, Big Wheel Dog 82 in the soil here, and I just wanted to give an update, number 1, on my bioassay restart, because we just had problems. And then I also was going to share with you guys some early hauls of my carrots, just testing them out, seeing where they're at, how big they are. Plus I really just want to eat some. All right, let's get to the story of the bioassay. Pretty early on, I thought I noticed differences in all the soil types, but the soil, I had kept it outside in my cheap outdoor greenhouse. So I figured with the up and down temps, maybe they were just having germination issues that were slowing down some versus the others. So I brought them inside. After a couple of days, though, I started to see that one in two of the pots might have started breaking the surface, but I still saw promise because there was still cracking on the surface of the others. So I was like, well, yeah, maybe it's just delayed. Well, almost about a week went by, and I think I posted a shorts video just sort of kind of giving the quick snippet of what was going on. But what had happened was, out of the, let's see, I had what, the 4, 8, 12, so I had 24 plants, or seeds I would say. Out of the 24 of those, only 2 grew. So yeah, either A, I knew I had a problem with the soil, which would be more like compaction, or I buried them too deep. So what I did was I left the 2 that had green beans growing in them, because I was going to cut them down to 2 anyways. So I went ahead and I poked in new seeds of a different variety, which is the Blue Lake 274s. But then the other ones, I went ahead and took each individual soil cup, dumped it out, added in some perlite to fluff it up. I fished out the 4 seeds, and right then is what I noticed what the problem was, and it was the same with all of them, which was the seeds had rotten. So that tells me that it's more likely just old seed, because those seeds were about somewhere around 2.5 years old. And it was a variety I didn't care about, so that's why I used them. So this time I went ahead and I used the same seed that I grew my green beans from this year. But that's the situation. But then I also added, other than the perlite, I kind of noticed 1 or 2 fungus gnats on my light. So that could come from either my compost, my leaf mold, or my worm castings. I don't think it's the worm castings though, because I don't have any gnats or any kind of flying insects in my worm bin. So that's the 2 culprits that I can think of. So what I did was, to remedy that problem and keep it from becoming bigger, is I just took a piece of a mosquito donut and I ground that up, and I sprinkled a little bit into each mix as I was refreshing it with the perlite, and then refilled each container, and then put 4 more seeds in each one of those. So we're done, we're restarted. I also soaked the beans too, just to make sure that they were good and that they plumped up on their own, and to make sure there were no floaters. So I've done just about everything I think I can to ensure a decent germination rate, provided the beans all cooperate. So with that, I'll take it right in there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we have it, the restart on the Bioassay. Right now, we've got, as I said before, 4 again here, 4 here, 4 more here and here, and same parameters as last time, but I also added 1 here and another one in here. They're all different. So these 2 are Roma, and the rest of the seeds that I put in are 274s, I believe. So this is it. And it's got the starting date of today, which is the 17th. And then on these ones, as a reminder, I left the dates that I started on there and the new date. So here's crossing our fingers. I again added the perlite, mosquito dunks, sprinkled some of that into the actual soil mix on the 4 that I repotted. So here we go, we're all done, we're all started, and hopefully these will not take 2 weeks to sprout. Hopefully they should only take maybe about 5 days, 6 days. So, all right, that's where we're at. And there we have it. I want to make this a little bit shorter video for you guys because there's really not a whole lot going on. If you're interested in this whole series, unfortunately, it's getting restarted, but I think I'm going to just go ahead and make this the second part, because it's kind of a continuation, but we'll see. Like I said, fingers crossed, everything works out, and the leaf water should be even more potent now that it's sat for about a week. I did have to top that off a little bit, but yeah, it should really show signs that there's issues with that. So I'm looking forward to the results. I'm coming to you guys today to talk about the bioassay. I mean, wow, it's been a while since I started that. And if you've been keeping up with it, I've had a few issues here and there. And I'm sure a lot of you that care about the bioassay are thinking, what's going on with it? We've got some good, we got some bad, we got some middle ground. So I'm hoping that this one's going to be interesting for you. And I hope it gives you all the info that a lot of you guys have been waiting for. We're not finished with it yet, but we're making some headway. Those of you who have been following along since the beginning know that we started this project probably, I think it was the end of October, beginning of November, and everything was set up. Everything at the time, I thought everything was perfect. It sure found out real soon that it wasn't perfect. And so here we are, looking at it, and then I think it was about 2 weeks in, and out of 24 total plants, I only had 2 of them that actually came about and sprouted. So I knew I had a problem. The problem though I had was I needed a reason to restart it, yes, but I didn't want to completely invalidate what was going on in the beginning of the test. So that's where you saw me restart the plants. I emptied all the soils out. I fluffed them up a little bit, added some more perlite to them to try to make it easier for the next round of seeds to germinate. And for the most part, it worked. But it's still, again, there's still issues going on, which I will explain in the video, well, in the next clips here in just a minute. But there were still problems with it. And now we've got some results, and we've got some good germination and sprouting, and we're starting to see the pluses and minuses of some of these inputs when it comes to just their health. So we'll get into that again when we get up to the grow room, and I'll show you guys what's going on there. Here we are back for an update on our bioassay, and as you can see, a lot has changed. First of all, let's get some of the hard stuff out the way. So this one here is just, like I said, the Pro Mix with blood meal, and while that is one of the original beans that we had a problem with for a lot of them, it did go, but now, I mean, it's still hanging in there, and I probably should have restarted that one too, but we'll let that go and see what happens. This here, though, is the restart, and it finally decided to pop up, so we're good there. And then back here, we've got this one. We'll just sit it here. So again, this one, I think I know what my problem is. Let's see, that's what time I started all the other ones, but because the mix is roughly a 50-50 with my compost, it's A little bit too thick. B, I probably shouldn't have put so much in there. And I don't think I added enough cocoa or perlite to make a difference. But as you can see, we do have germination finally. Again, it's delayed, kind of like this one. But we're getting somewhere. And this one was, again, was just a compost and premix. Alright, now that we've got that one out the way, here we go. This guy right here, which is my worm castings and premix. Now, the bean, the original bean, took off pretty well. Yes, we're starting to see a little bit of deficiency because this test is not about what grows the healthiest plant. What this test is for is just to check germination and growth. And see, even this one, let's get that singled out for you. There we go. Even this one, even though it's a new bean, kind of like these ones, and I don't know what happened to the other cotyledon leaf, but it is coming along. It's making its buds, so that's fine. So we know so far, at least it's showing all the signs that you want it to show, that that's a healthy soil for the seed to grow in. It's not really showing any other issues other than maybe, like I said, nutrient deficiency maybe, but that's not, we don't really care about that at this point in time. Here's another one. Okay, so this is the leaf mold. This is my fully broken down leaf mold that I did 50-50 again. Then we went ahead and added more perlite, and as you can see, we are doing really, really good here. We're starting to get our true leaves on. Nice, green, healthy cotyledons. So that one, I don't think we're going to have a problem with. We're doing good. Alright, back here, which is just, you would think that it would have about the same growth rate as these two, because really the only difference is the leaf water, which is right here. Again, just water, leaves, refill it when it gets low. So that's the treatment that this one's getting. And I did have to restart these two, but for the most part, I think they're about even. We do have 1, 2, 3 there. We have 1, 2, and 3, so 3 to 4 in both. So the heights are roughly about the same. And so far, that's about it. They've got new growth sprouts and buds. I'll be nipping these down to 2 here shortly, especially once they start showing more progress with their true leaves. But I figured it's about time to show where our progress is on the bioassay. Yeah, this little guy's just ready to come out. So, all in all, we're doing good. We're showing progress. And I don't really see too many issues that I'm overly concerned about. But this will help me in my final findings as far as what I'm going to do come spring, which we'll wait until that next video. I'll just hold that thought until then. So last time you guys were here, we had started the bioassay, And we are starting to get results with the true leaves coming out. We were starting to notice a little bit of differences in the mediums, and there was some that weren't really doing so hot. There were some that were just rock stars. But guess what? We've got some real differences to show this time, and you will be surprised. You absolutely will be surprised with what has happened and what hasn't happened. Again, dogs. So don't mind them. So we're going to go up to the grow room. We're going to take a look around and see how this bioassay concluded. Hope you guys are ready.
All right, guys, this is the long anticipated conclusion to the bioassay test that we did. So here we have it. All 6 of our inputs, and as you can tell, some of them are bigger, some of them are smaller, some of them are more full, and you might notice a few other things too. But again, before we start taking a deep dive into it, remember, this isn't necessarily about, oh, what's the greenest or the most lush. We're mainly just trying to see that these plants grow true to form. Okay? So let's start with our very first one. So the first one that we're knocking off is the control, which is just, as a refresher, ProMix. There was 4 beans in there initially, and I cut it down to 2. And as you can see, for not having any kind of additional amendments, it's pretty well grown. There's no issues as far as deformities or nothing, which we would expect. So I would say that's obviously safe, which is why it's the control. All right, next up we have the setup with the lab and blood meal and ProMix. And again, this plant is about as true to form as you can get. It's not as far along as the others, because this is one of the ones where I was having issues with germination, but that was mainly because of the seeds. And the one that was in there, I left in there. I wasn't going to tear that out and do the mix like I did the other ones, because I was trying to give that seed a chance, and in the end it ended up just failing. And again, that was more to it being old seed than any issues with the mixture that's in this pot, because as you can see, while it's short, it's very dark green. And it's probably one of the greener ones that we've got in this test, but the greenness of it isn't really the point. The main reason I was trying to do this with the labs and the nitrogen was just to have another variable to throw in there to see whether or not there's definite differences in how the plant grows when there's just extra nitrogen available. So this one passes. Let's move on to the next one. Here we have the ProMix with just leaf water used during the entire growth. And yeah, not good, not bad. Okay, so we'll start with the not bad. As you can see, none of the leaves really look deformed or anything. So that tells us that the probability of pesticides in this, or herbicides, I'm sorry, is pretty low. The problem, though, as you can tell, there's obviously a nitrogen deficiency here, even though it's the same ProMix as the standard control, and they're considerably smaller. The only thing I can pretty much try to guesstimate on why that is, it has to do with the tannins from the leaf water, which, if you can tell, it's the tannins are what makes it really, really dark. And I didn't really water down that leaf water as I was feeding it to him. Matter of fact, you can kind of tell on the surface here, it's really, really dark. And either A, it's the tannins, or B, it's that there's leaf particles or something in that water that was still robbing the nitrogen from the plant. But I can't confirm that or not. I would more lean towards the tannin, like I said, but it's just a guess. No real evidence to put towards that. So, all right, let's move on to our next. So here is our pot with my compost that's sifted and Pro Mix. And first of all, again, just one plant. And the issue, which is what hit probably about 4 out of the 6, was initially the actual soilless mix, which is too thick, too compact for the seeds to grow. That and the fact that they were just old seed. So this one was added with more perlite and then reseeded. And then it was reseeded on the 17th, just like everything else was. And eventually it did grow because I only put in 2 seeds. 1 seed didn't turn out right. So we've got the 1. And the most important part of this, though, is look at the foliage. It looks just perfectly fine. It's not twisted. The stem might be a little bit wonky down there, but I'm not really going to pay any mind to that because I've noticed that with green beans anyways, especially the bush type, which this is, that sometimes the stem itself can be a little wonky, but it might not matter all that much because the plant still thrives. But there is something that I did notice, and I will save that for my ending because there's quite a few things that I've come to realize that it's going to affect my seed starting this next year. So with that, let's move on to the next. All right, now this one at first might be a little confusing, but this is my worm casting in Pro Mix pot, and this is the original bean type that I planted in the very beginning of this experiment, and it is the only one that pretty much survived until now, which is why I said I had bad seed in the initial start of this test. And that one was planted back on October the 25th, and it's doing well. I mean, it's trying to make bean pods, it's flowering and everything else. But then I also threw in another one of the 274s on November 17th, and here it is. And it is doing fine as well. There's no deformities of the leaves. And while I can say that neither one of these are entirely happy, the Roma looks like it's trying to steal as much of the nutrients for itself from the other. But all in all, both plants are true to form. So that's the thing. And it surprised me that my worm castings, even though I haven't added anything to it, just like all the other ones, these plants are still relatively nice and green considering how much plant is in this pot. So, all right, let's get to our final pot. All right, and here it is, the very last setup we have, which is leaf mold and Pro Mix. And again, it's got 2 plants in it, which are not only true to form, we're starting to put on pods of flowers. Now, you might notice, yes, they are a little yellow. And to illustrate how yellow they are, I will take another one, the one from the blood meal, and set it right next to it so you can sort of kind of tell how yellow they are. And while this, again, is not necessarily contingent on this experiment, it just shows that no, leaf mold does not have a whole lot of nitrogen in it. But I think I have another idea what's going on, because if you take just the base mix, as you can see, the control pro mix is just a shade or two darker green than this one. And my thinking is maybe this might be more of a pH thing. Because I know sometimes leaf mold can register more on the acidic side, depending on what leaves it is, or what's around it, or on the ground when you go to collect it. So I'm assuming that maybe it's swung one way or another pH wise, which is, I could sit there and say the same for the leaf water one too, but I'm not 100% certain. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, because as far as herbicides go, these are exactly the way they're supposed to be. So there you go. And if you want to know something else, this was the very first pot to not only sprout, but to also put leaves on out of all of the other restarts that I've done. So what it is about the leaf mold and what it is about the worm castings, I have no idea. But both of those inputs made a big difference in how fast the seeds germinated once they were in it. So that's it. Let me bring them all back together again so we can take one more look at it, and I'll talk a little bit about what I'm planning on doing. So there we have it. We have all of them back together again in one shot. And this whole experiment thing has been actually kind of confusing but enlightening, because like I said, the leaf mold pot and the worm mix, or worm casting mix, were two of the ones that I had the least amount of problems with, provided that I fluffed enough perlite into them. And outside of the one with the blood meal, they're also some of the greenest. I mean, the compost one, even though it was slow to come along, it's actually relatively green and healthy looking. So I think my plan of attack for this coming spring, when I start seeds, is I'm going to do a combination of both my worm castings and my leaf mold when I'm doing my seed start mix. So I will do, just like I did with this one, sift out my pro mix, but I will go 25% leaf mold, 25% worm castings, and then probably about 40% pro mix, and the remaining 10% will be perlite. And that'll be my mix, and see whether or not that not only improves my germination rate, but also the greening of whatever seed starts that I have, so that I don't have to add anything to the soil mix. Now, I could also boost it with the blood meal and labs, but I don't think I'm going to need to do that. And while the compost did not necessarily blow me out of the water with how it grew the seeds, I don't think that's supposed to be its job anyways. It's supposed to be there to feed the plant once it's established. So, from now on, again, a mix of my leaf mold and my worm castings will be a part of my seed starting mix. But then my compost, I'm gonna wait until I'm ready to actually pot those out or set those into a container of some sort, then mix in my compost, because then the plant will be ready to accept it, and I'm not waiting for seeds to pop up through it. So you guys let me know. You let me know whether or not that seems like a thought out plan, or whether you think that I might find issues, or something that you might think I made a mistake on with this whole experiment. All right, guys. I bet you thought that I said that we were pretty much done with these. These are the plants from the bioassay video I did. And while I am officially done with that, I made kind of a little, I don't know if you'd call it an epiphany, or I just noticed there was a trend here. So here are the one that had the ProMix, and this is the compost, the sifted compost. This one was the ProMix with the worm casting, and then back here was the one with ProMix and a finished leaf mold. Now, as you can see, they've all got green beans growing all over them. They're everywhere, including this one back here. You see? And what I did notice was that on the three other, which are the one with blood meal, the control, which is just the ProMix by itself, and then the one with the leaf water, what's missing? I mean, there's foliage, and this one still is having issues, but I mean, it just now started. And then this one back here is all kinds of candy wampus, which I have a theory on that one. Let's see if I can get you clear. Yeah, that one's all messed up. So, what I'm thinking is, the ones over here, they started out with some type of complete nutrition. There was enough NPK, there was enough nutrients and micronutrients in the medium already, which allowed them, even though, yes, in order to catch these ones up, I've been giving this one some liquid fertilizer, but these ones are so much further along because they had most of what they needed, I believe. And they've all greened up nicely. They're all flowering. I mean, this one here has a bean that's more than ready to come off. I mean, if I wanted to eat it, I could. But I'm just gonna get back my seeds out of these good plants. But yeah, it's just weird how all three of these ones that had an incomplete either breakdown of the material, which the leaf water one would fit in, or like this one where I added the nitrogen with the blood meal, it's not doing all that. It's nice and green and the leaves are huge, but there was just no fruit. And then this one, the control, which is just a blank canvas of just the ProMix, it was lethargic. It was not doing nothing. It's still not even greened up like the rest of them, even though it's been getting the same nutrients liquid-wise as these other two. That goes to show you, if you don't have complete nutrition for your plants, just like with your body, the system breaks down. And I don't know why I didn't think about that beforehand as a possible outcome of this whole bioassay thing. But I'm glad I kept it going, like I said, only to try to maybe see if I couldn't recoup my seeds. Then I've got fresh seed for next growing season. But
I'm kind of happy it happened. It's a happy accident that I ended up noticing, and it's like a reminder, stay up on your guys' plant nutrition. They need everything, because if you don't, you're gonna have plants that look like this, too much nitrogen, this one that had too little everything, or the one back there, which basically is in the same position as this, but I think the tannins that leached out in the water from those leaves, they put that plant back, because the soil is just so dark. And it's not dark from being compost. I mean, that one's a little dark too, but I mean, it's just dark. And I noticed that from in the tannins, which just fell. So I can't show you that because it's a mess that I gotta clean up. But yeah, just watch out for your nutrition, guys. They need everything, and they're little plant babies and they can't take care of themselves. So take care of them. So guys, that's it. That's the entire journey that I made from start to finish. And if you're still here, this was a long one, a very long one. The originally uploaded video segments that took it step by step, and there's also a few shorts for covering the mishaps that happened throughout the videos. But that's about it. So if you enjoyed it, if you made it all the way through this, thank you. I appreciate it. Please let me know down in the comment section if you think this is a good thing to do whenever I have a multi-part series. Please also let me know. So with that, I'm out of here. Big Wheel Dog 82 in the soil. See you guys later.